the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out tonight for our meeting. I do want to make mention that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. You can find the meeting through our Facebook page. The recording will also be posted up on our YouTube channel, which can be found through the website. So you'll be able to watch it whenever you'd like. We're going to start off with our regular business with some meeting minute approvals. I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of March 8th, 2023 as written. I have a motion by Heather. Do I have a second?
Second.
And I have a second by Jen. Any questions or comments on those meeting minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So that was unanimous? One abstention, so it was not unanimous. Okay. We also have the approval of meeting minutes for March 15th, 2023. I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of March 15th, 2023 as written. I have one in my hand for a second. For a second, is that getting off? Any questions or comments on those meeting minutes of March 15th? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
No, but I'm going to swap you. I'm actually going to swap those two out.
Oh,
With the 8, not the 15,
Eight, okay,
yes.
so,
I was looking at the wrong notes.
okay, I was thinking to myself, I
Yeah.
thought you were there
Yeah,
on the
I
8th,
was.
not the 15th.
Yep.
So, I will allow that change, that Jeff will vote in favor of the 8th, which makes that
Abstain.
unanimous, and abstain on the 15th. Bills and payrolls will be done at our next meeting, so we don't have to go over that tonight. And we will go to our student rep dialogue.
So my report is on the AP day today. So today's two bills that we were advocating for was for statewide equitable AP credit policy, so that students that take the AP exams, the qualifying scores, which is 3s and 4s, will be like who you earn college credit for them, because there's so many institutions that don't accept it, even though we've worked so hard throughout the entire year. Sometimes it doesn't show on the exam. So that's what we were advocating for. Overall, it was just an amazing experience. So we left the school at 6 this morning, got to Boston, had breakfast, and it was the presenters had their speeches, and after that they split us up into these groups, and we were assigned representatives and senators to give this blue folder to and present the bill and tell our AP story. So we kind of thought that it was like already set up for us, and there's kind of like a everyone was on the same page. So it's awkward the first time you go up to the door, we knock on it, and they're like kind of looking at us. We're like, and we just kind of like hand the folder. I'm just like, here's the folder. Like, look, like, why are you talking to us? And we're like, and then we're all looking at it like, wait, they don't know why we're here. Like, we thought it was kind of set up. And so the first one was awkward, but after that we were able to like get our lines out and explain why we were there and what we were advocating for. And then we ended up going to Senator Goldie's office. She was in a meeting, so we talked to her chief of staff, who was so friendly. He was just really like happy we were there. I talked about my experience with AP and how the college I'm going to doesn't accept the credits and how much help I could get them. And then another girl that spoke talked about that as well. And it was just amazing. It was just an amazing experience to be able to go to something like that. So that was my report.
So most importantly, how many days left?
In this year? The number, surprising.
Madam Chair, Zia is an outstanding student. They don't necessarily count days.
Good. Just a couple of questions. So this bill that you are advocating for, is it for all higher ed institutions in the state of Massachusetts?
Yes.
Public institutions?
I think they mentioned public specifically.
Okay, so it's just their, because that's interesting that we have a whole state public college university system, and for them to have differing standards, that certainly is something that really should be looked at. With that equitable influence on private university, not quite sure, how much they can have in the nature that they're private, but internally on the public university system, definitely makes sense that you should be able to do that. So, good for you guys. That's exciting. So, and Senator Goby is, of course, she's on she's the chair of the Senate side of the higher ed committee, so she is a great leader to have. And what I know of her chief of staff and several other of her staff members, when you talk to them, it's like speaking to her, so that was awesome that you were able to have this conversation.
Yes.
So great. Fun, so it's your first advocacy effort on
Yes.
the Hill. First of many, hopefully.
Yes. They say, come back, please come back. We're like, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Careful what you wish. That's great. Well, congratulations to you and all the folks who went out there and advocated for the bill, and I hope that they listen to you. Okay. Anything else you want to report on? Okay. Next up, we have public input. I just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping things with public input because I haven't done this in quite some time. We do have a public input policy that is posted on our posting site off of the website, BEDH, which talks about public participation. At school committee meetings, it kind of gives the ground rules for how that works. I also did want to bring up, we do have another policy that's KE called public complaints. And I just wanted to bring that one up because it kind of goes hand in hand with the public input piece of it. So if anyone comes with a complaint to the committee, there is a path that you're supposed to follow. You're supposed to go through escalation procedures through the teacher, the school building administrator, to the superintendent, and then ultimately they get to the school committee. But one of the things that I did want to point out is that anonymous complaints are disregarded. So I know that this is the time of year where we, people write a lot of things on the or in other places. Those types of comments, you really need to come to the committee directly, identify yourself. So if you do have any questions or comments, please do that, because if it is anonymous or not directed to the committee, you really can't respond to it. So I want to just point that out before we got to public input. So with that being said, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak tonight? Thanks. It doesn't seem like there is, and we will move on to the next. I don't see a member from the NDEA. Usually they'll come to the second meeting, so they're not here tonight. We'll start with the FY23 budget update, and I'll look over to Anne Marie to see if there's been any changes since we last met.
in FY23.
Right. Still fingers crossed.
We're just holding on.
Yes, moving on.
Okay. And then next up we have FY24. Normally in our budget process, we have our numbers put together a lot earlier than we did this year. I think we've talked about it quite a bit with the governor, having a brand new governor and then not releasing numbers until it was the very end of February before we got them. It did throw our budget into a timeline. Normally, we like to certify a budget, have our meetings with the towns, take the feedback, and then be able to discuss what that feedback was, and be able to do that hopefully before March hits. Unfortunately, since we didn't even have numbers until just, I think it was February 28th, I think it was, we didn't have time to make all of that happen. So I wanted to throw it over to Dr. Cazanet, who's had the ability now to go speak with the towns and fill us in on how those conversations went and what information we might need to have as we discuss FY24.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So exactly as we, as just described, as a matter of fact, if memory serves, I believe that the budget meeting was the same night that I was to meet in Templeton, if my dates are still fresh in my mind. But the idea that we tried to have as much communication as possible, we went through that. We did. We had a lot of conversation. We talked a lot about the numbers, but we didn't know what the number was going to be. Ultimately, we did, and we were reversed. We didn't really get the opportunity to say, well, here it is. This is what we need. This is the number that we're looking at, and have those conversations. So I'll start with Templeton, because we met with Templeton first. And it was a good conversation. We talked a lot about need. I think that certainly the finance committee folks who were there, and of course the select board, completely understand where we were coming from in terms of the sheer number of students whom our increase was 100 kids, and net about 83 over in 1 year. And that's a lot of students for districts this size, which then means that we need more people to teach them. I mean, ultimately, and again, I'm summarizing an hour conversation. I think what it certainly was not, wasn't veiled or anything like that. We had a good, productive conversation about the fact that the number, which I'll call in, well, it's the certified number, and we were calling it basically the all-in, or the principal's budget. But the certified number that, the number that was certified on March 8th of $23,789,786 was far and away more than the town of Templeton could support. And we had conversations about, well, capacity, but also maybe projecting how things were going to go over the next couple of years, and was this kind of a one-off? I think was a good question, and as I said, I don't know, because what's caused much of this is the sheer number of students that have come in, not only this year, but last year. And so I think I had said something to the effect is, I think I'm going to need your help to help me understand that, because we don't know who moved in. We don't know how many houses necessarily are built, how many are occupied, or, again, I think that conversation certainly needs to happen, but I didn't want to certainly say, oh yeah, this is the only time this is going to happen. So, left there with, again, productive conversation. We had conversations after that meeting as well, in terms of that number being very, very high, and probably not able to be supported by the taxpayers of Templeton, certainly given all of the other responsibilities that Templeton have. Last week, we were able to meet with Phillipston, combination of the select board and the finance committee, and again, really to summarize the number that we presented there, which would be Phillipston's share, was quite higher than they felt that they could support, just given probably, right, the same obstacles that Templeton is also experiencing, like every other town in this area, especially with how the economy has been faring, but also what the interest rates have done to existing budgets and what we think are going to affect next year's budget. So what I certainly said on multiple occasions to both towns was that I work in the discussions of the school committee, that I do not make decisions in regards to the budget, but that I would bring back this information. Again, it's a little bit backwards this year. It wouldn't have normally happened in this way or in this manner in this timeline. But what I can easily say, and Anne Marie, in case I've misspoke, certainly could attest, is that they are very concerned with the certified budget number on the March 8th certified number. Thank you, of $23,789,786. And when looking at what some of the other, I'll use the word options, but looking at some of the other scenarios, that the TES staffed version, which I have a slide, I'm not sure I can put it up. There's multiple, okay, I just want to make sure. 9734. And so I'll do my best here just to explain this, as you're looking at. So here, obviously, this is the budget that was certified on March 8th. it included what the principals not only requested, but it stated that they needed in order to operate most efficiently. Middle school unified art teacher, three kindergarten pairs were added at the meeting. I just want to make sure I say that, because that was not on the initial list. That was added by the school committee itself during that meeting. A high school Spanish teacher to help with the 50 or so additional students. We have a lot of students at the high school. Some of our class sizes, especially in unified arts, I'm looking at there, she's going, oh yeah, there's a lot. But we have classes of 30 in some of these areas, and we need to offset that. Elementary dean of students and 6 elementary teachers. So that was certified. What I want to, I'm going to bounce back and forth, because we added another one for people to consider, or just to be able to visualize, I guess, would be the best way to put that. What was discussed, at least initially, on March 8th was was the core teachers at TES, which I personally and others have stated that this is the absolute demarcation. This is the line that cannot be crossed. That at the very minimum, although not effective, but those 5 elementary teachers which operate at the K1, 2, 3, 4 grade levels, giving 5 teachers at the elementary, at TES instead of 4, because remember, ESSER is done at the end of the year. Those teachers are being funded, supported by ESSER funds. We went into great detail about FY20 and the failed override, and the game plan was to reduce the number of school choice students because at that time we had 250 in this district. We have done that considerably, which I have talked, I realize, ad nauseum about, and will not bore the group again tonight. But what has happened is that every one of those students and more have been replaced by residents. So those numbers at the elementary level will be no lower, as I will say predicted or thought or planned, given what we knew in FY20. So that's all the way at the very end of the spectrum over here. Okay. So when we start looking at other options, because people wanted to see different things, is that, well, if you take and look at the 6 elementary teachers, because remember, there was 5 for the grade, but we need the 6th for the unified art, because if you have 6 classroom teachers during the unified arts, those 6 classes have to go 6 different places. Okay, and to do that is here, right? 23,373,000, and as requested when we discussed this, what did a fully staffed TES look like to include the dean of students? I think that if I answered one question the most during this process is, what is a dean of students, and what does a dean of students do? And then why did you hire or create the dean of students position? As I've said in this form, the dean of students was created and posted, one, in response to an incredible increase of behaviors at the elementary level specifically. We had a tough time transitioning back, like many, if not all elementary schools. Dysregulation was something that we dealt with almost definitely on a daily basis. I can easily say that without, worrying about kind of misspeaking. And it's hard when you only have a certain amount of people who can respond to those behaviors and or dysregulations. The other issue was, or part of it, was that we were trying to hire a kindergarten special education teacher. Probably for approximately 6 months, we had 1 application, or 2 total in 6 months, and we could not hire a special needs teacher, which we had the year before, or prior, and so I made the decision then not to repost that position, because we had posted it for almost 6 months, since late July, early August of last year, and so the combination of the, really kind of weighed my decision to do so. Okay. And so that is an interim position because it was hired or created in the middle of the year. Everyone is fully aware of that, meaning the folks who are either dependent on that position or is in the role. But again, with something we talked about, just as a little summary, we are the second largest elementary school for a ways. We have 657 kids at the elementary school. I won't speak out of turn because I will look, but 90%, if not higher, are residents. This is not a school choice issue or problem. Please don't take that the wrong way. We are not packed full of school choice students. We have, if you do not count the tuition kids in for pre-K, we have roughly 16 school choice kids, give or take, out of 657. So there are a lot of students down there. When you look at other elementaries, they have far more resources for the number of kids. We are, by the way, Gardner has the largest elementary school. They have close to 800, I believe, so it's the one area school that we fall behind. There is in my best possible, in the quickest way that I can possibly summarize all of these conversations and try to meld them into one coherent stream of thought, is that I would simply say that my position doesn't change on the staffing of TES as being the absolute non-negotiable for me. Again, if decisions are being made one way or another, the fallback or the least that I can possibly see us doing business is making sure that we have the number of teachers that we need to teach those students, and that is one at every grade level. Madam Chair, I don't know if I hit everything. I'm sure I did not, so I will,
Let me throw it out to the community because, again, normally we would have this feedback, we would certify a budget. Obviously, we have certified a budget. Now we are getting this feedback, so we need to determine if we want to reconsider anything. And so let me just talk through process so that everyone can understand that. We can certainly have a conversation if no one feels they want to change anything and we stick with our number. Then that is what the towns will put on their warrant. The risk there, we've talked about this before, if it doesn't pass, we end up with a district-wide town meeting because we don't have a budget, we could go into 112, and there's a whole host of issues with doing that. So that is one potential path we could go down. We could also entertain, a different number. We have the ability to recertify our budget based on what the law says. We certify it within the time frame that we needed to, so we are in compliance. But we can, at any point in time, go ahead and recertify this number. Once the towns vote on it, I just want to make everyone aware of it. Once the towns do vote on it, and we have a passed budget that is funded by the towns, if we want to recertify a number after that point, there's two scenarios. One, we can always recertify less because the town would be happy not to have a bill quite as high. So we can always come back and do that. If we did want to recertify for a higher number, we would actually have to go back to the towns for another vote to happen. So just keep that in mind. So the timing of this is we have not yet had a funded budget at the town level. So we have a little more flexibility. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the warrants for each town have not been finalized yet. It's coming upon quickly. So if we did want to make a change, now this would be a good time to do so we could have something on as a warrant article that represented with the school committee on it. Just a couple other scenarios from the process. We have a lot of new people, and I just want everyone to understand. If we were to certify a budget after the warrant was presented, we could make an amendment on the floor for a new number. That's happened in years past, where the school committee has changed things and comes to the table at town meeting with the new number. And obviously, if we did those changes, we looked to Dr. Kazdan to make sure that we gave everyone in the towns enough heads up with that information so they knew what to expect. But that could be another potential outcome if we didn't take action tonight. The key, obviously, for tonight is we do change. It could be presented for a new warrant. Presented for the warrant. If we don't, it's probably too late to make anything get into the warrant as a change. So I want to put that out there so you guys have an understanding of the process and what timing will impact what happens. So with that being said, I will open it up for questions. For Dr. Kazavant, was there anything that he spoke about or did he speak about that you have questions on?
Yeah, I think, yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I wanted to pause there because I figured, as you know, I kind of rambled on there a bit. So in conversations with, again, this has only been about a week or 2 weeks. It's not been a lot of time since we've had an occasion to talk with the towns. I think that the folks that I have been able to speak with, I think that people understand that the 6 elementary teachers, and again, I remember I've oscillated back and forth, right? There are 5 classroom teachers, right? K, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. That is absolute. That 6th teacher, which is represented at the 373,968 number, truly is when I don't want to say something like it's the most important thing because there's a lot of needs, but what I do understand is that everyone has there's a lot of need everywhere, right? Especially for the towns. I think that is quite frankly, I think that fits it fits what folks can at least tolerate from the town levels. But I also have to say that in order to run the elementary school, you're going to need that balance. You're going to need that unified art teacher because you can't have five funneling into 6 classes, 5 funneling into 4. You can't have, in terms of the unified art. You've got to have a place for all those kids to go because the numbers are just going to be too large. And I just want to make sure, I didn't say that, but I want to make sure that I put that on the record as well because I think that's the most important part of that conversation.
Any questions or comments from the committee for Dr. Kazavant to find out some more information on the APR or clarification? So, Chuck. Sorry.
So, I think, we had a lot of discussions on March 8th, about what we did certify. I do know that we added some stuff to the floor, or to the budget on that night. I don't think a whole lot has changed. However, we do, we want to keep in with our partners, work with our partners on this. Have we had any discussions? I mean, I guess to me, it wouldn't make a whole bunch of sense on us to eliminate or change anything unless we have an idea on what we're looking at. Do we have an idea? Have we had any conversations on what might work, what might help us get this passed without going to, we certainly do not want to go to get rejected on the floor. I mean, have we had discussions like that?
Mm-hmm. Again, I want to make sure I'm clear about something. When you have these discussions, it's really about I have not been able to talk with all of our constituents, but in speaking with Templeton, because I spoke with them further ago, I had more time to talk about that. I think that when it was certainly conveyed to me that in terms of the minimum local contribution, it was important that number. The minimum local contribution is what it is. It's the minimum local contribution that the towns, are required to pay. But and again, I have Mike here tonight, but to increase that by the total for for Templeton, specifically would be 370, which is roughly about a 65, 66 and some change $1,000 increase from the number that we first had. We're working with. I will defer certainly because I want to make sure that I have my number correct or I understood correctly, but I don't know what the increase to Phillipston would be to that. Maybe Anne Marie can help me just do that quick math before and after from the 5 teachers to the 6. Again, I realize that what I'm sorry?
It's $11,000.
It's $11,000, sorry, thank you.
It's actually on your slide, on the very bottom.
Okay. Is it?
See?
Oh, if I had to yes, I would have had to do quick math, but that's why I probably wasn't even thinking about doing that, actually. So, I think that is the, from what I understand, would be palatable. How if I put it that way, for the town. I had not talked to all towns, or both towns, I should say. But Templeton did engage me in a conversation about this directly after the meeting that we attended.
Any other questions, comments, or questions? So just to kind of summarize then, you do have a feeling for what Templeton might be able to bear, which we can take that into consideration. I don't know if we do have someone from Phillipston here tonight. I don't know if you would like to offer any commentary, but at this point, we're certainly happy, and we certainly understand if you don't want to, because you're not speaking for. Exactly. So I don't want to put you in that situation. I didn't know if they gave you any direction coming here. Okay. No. Yeah. So all we really know is that, that adding 6 teachers, but the flip side of that is we need the $600,000 in E&D. That, so whereas the Templeton has given us more money, we've actually now needed to use more E&D to help fund that 6th teacher. It's kind of this, which we were going to need to do with that original scenario that we had. So, I mean, honestly, I'll say it again. Am I happy with any of this? Absolutely not. It's an issue of competing priorities, and we certainly understand that. We're all residents of these towns we live in. We all appreciate the fact that, any cut in any service impacts all of us. Never mind that, we're advocating for our students because that's our job. But we understand there's that delicate balance to try and work with our partners to ensure that, one, we can have a certified budget that will be approved on town floor and partner with our town. So,
I do want to say one thing, because I completely agree, it's in the best interest of our entire district that we find a way to be good partners with our towns. That said, there was also some comments made in the Templeton meeting specifically around this being a growth plan. And I want to put out there that nothing that was presented is a growth plan. There's also a request for more details on what a growth plan might look like, which I think that's a great request. But this in and of itself, what was presented, was not a growth plan. This was meeting the needs of the students we have in the district today. And choosing a different funding level, should that be what we decide to do, is going to have some negative impact on our schools and on our students. Because we're not going to be able to supply the necessary staffing at all school levels. That administrator, for example, that is not in the plan that we think would get passed. That administrator was actually a critical element of the plan for the elementary school, because we have the highest one of the highest student to administrator ratios, and that means that those administrators are going to go back to having a workload that exceeds their ability to meet the needs of their staff as well as the students. So yes, we absolutely have to work with our towns, and we have to be cognizant of the fact that there are increases across the board, and I support that. But I did want to make it very clear that not one of these plans was a growth plan. We can talk about a growth plan and we can figure out what that would look like, but none of these scenarios was that. Every one of these scenarios was meeting the needs of students in our district in seats today.
It was, I think that's very well stated. Again, I'm going to go back to the number of students again, because the number of students dictate. Education is a staff-intensive business. Unless something changes with robots, then I don't know seriously how that changes. Class sizes are important, and I think it would have been a growth plan if we would have reduced by the number of kids that were either we thought or predicted, because how it was supposed to go is that the population was to decline. Looking at the old information when they built the Templeton Elementary School, they had to do a census projection. And the census was supposed to decline, or just overall, especially out here in Western Mass, quote unquote. We're not really, but we might as well, we are. We're the gateway to it. So out here, it was going to decline. Then when you take away X amount of school choice kids by choice, and you say, look, we're not gonna take any more school choice kids, the plan had merit, whereas the number of total kids serviced should have dropped, and I think would have been predictably so given that. COVID changed everything. We don't need to go into all that again. People moved out here for a lot of reasons, and they did in mass. So what this really is not a growth plan like, boy, you should have given us a heads up. No one would have predicted that 100 new students would have enrolled this year alone. Again, I keep saying that, and it was a net of 83 or 84 given kids come and go. This was just to make sure that we got enough staffing to do what we need to do. So if we were going to add something, a football field, a track, I'm trying to think of something. Yeah, that's a growth plan, right? You want to add math tutors at every level, why would you? That's a growth plan. I don't know. I could think of 1,000 different things that we don't necessarily have, but we want to try to get to. These are teachers. These are classroom teachers that we are trying to respond to the number of kids that have come into this district. Yeah, it's a growth plan, all right. We're growing, and we're trying to plan for it. I don't mean to be snark, but this isn't something like we're trying to figure this out. We have a lot of kids in this area, and we need to have enough teachers to teach them.
And we've known, we've seen that we were going to get, that we've been working that we knew we were going to be getting some with the buildings the housing going up and stuff. We have seen this. We didn't know it was going to be 100 new students, but we've seen this coming. We've been trying to work towards this, and we've been struggling for years now to get what we need for the students. My concern is 100 new students without having the staff we need. There are going to be other consequences. There are going to be additional behavioral issues that concerns me. There are going to be students that just won't be able to get the services that they need, which really concerns me. It is troublesome to me. The other thing too is, it's just noteworthy, I guess, to say we've been running on a frozen budget since January, December. This year, November. Thank you. And again, so that concerns me. We're doing what we can, and we're struggling through. I just hate to, cut ourselves short moving forward without the services we need. So.
Very good points. I think just to comment on that growth plan, I think it's commendable that Templeton has brought that up.
Yeah.
But I think we need to have a new word for it. Like how to get us to an operational baseline that will work for us, not a growth plan. We need to find, again, I just want to comment back, I was on the finance subcommittee. We'll talk to this when we met with the principals, and they were advocating for what they needed. There was no wish list. This was needs. It was actually, I have to say, the first time in my 10 years where we sat with the administrative team and listened to requests that not only were bare bones what they felt they needed just to get through, but also supported each other, which was even, we need this, we need the Spanish teacher, and it's also going to help the middle school. Like there were so many things. It was a great exercise. But that was really a baseline as has been spoken to. So I think, point taken, all the comments so far, that really cutting this budget doesn't start us at a point where we should be starting. We're behind the 8 ball again. But balancing that with the ability of the towns to be able to fund us so that we know we have a budget, I think that's that risk that we have to weigh. we're willing to take a chance. I don't know if things can go haywire. You get the state involved, and, if they put you on a 112 budget, they decide what that 112 is, it could be scary. They don't want to do that, so they don't make it easy for the district to do. So, as we look to weigh what we need to do to get a certified budget, but at the same token, how do we make sure that when we start talking this growth plan or call it whatever you want, we start those conversations immediately to say, okay, so if whatever we decide to settle on, here's really what we need in the next several years, and make sure that the towns are on board with that. So I think that that's part of the strategy, regardless of whatever we do tonight. That communication has to start up again. I just want to kind of talk, because again, there are so many new members. We used to do a chair meeting. It was just the chair of the select boards and the school committee chair, the superintendent, town manager, the town administrator, a member of the finance committee. So it was just an ad hoc meeting. It's no open meeting issues because it's not a forum in any body. And it was just a meeting once a month to discuss, hey, where are we? What do we need? What do we think is coming down the pipe? And that was very helpful. Of course, that was before COVID hit. I think the last time we met was beginning February of 2020, as a matter of fact. We were talking, I remember we were talking about the virus at that point, going, I wonder what's going to happen. And there we were. But I think it's really super important that those discussions start up again to make sure that the needs of the district and the needs of the towns can be, talked about and worked through together, so that next year when we come to the table, we're all in agreement up front. Of course, the budget process should be a little different because we'll be a new governor and it should be out by the end of January. So I do want to advocate to make sure that that happens and we can get that started. I know that Dr. Cabinet, you and I have had a quick discussion already about that.
Yes.
And make sure that that gets on the agenda to happen with whoever the current party will be at the time.
I would just say, Madam Chair, that, and again, it's all, these are points well taken. I will say that I don't want to rewrite also history, is that I would have to go back to the tape, right? Mm-hmm. But I believe I came in advocating for the as I've said, the TES being staffed. Again, in this, with the teachers that were presented. I did knowing fully well that there was going to be difficulty. I want to make sure I say that out loud, because it's going to sound different if, well, geez, you certified a budget of, well, of course, who doesn't want more people, and more staff for kids. But I want to make sure that I go on the record again saying that I did in fact say at the very, I focused on the TES staff building, because right now they are our primary, they're our area of most concern. I'll call it that, and we are underperforming according to the state. They're going to. They didn't do it this year. They are going, if we do not get out of the hole, they are going to force us to do something. We'd rather not be there in that situation where they force us to do whatever it may be, the corrective action. They've held off that. So given all of that in these educational triage moments, that's where we've kind of hung our hat. So I want to make sure I make note to that, because I did in fact, I think that's what I recommended back on March 8th.
Yes, and I will confirm that when that was, and since it was on the list of things, that absolutely that was what we felt at minimum. And it just reiterated points. I know we've had some conversations. Setting the budget is one of the three things that the school committee does. And we advocate for why we're here, which is the students, which is why we certify what we do.
Which we did before we had any input from the towns too. So.
Right. We had no input from the towns at that point. We just couldn't, because it just was too close.
To sort of touch on the thinking of all these gifts and a lot of restrictions in this position.
Yep.
We know that achievement, especially in elementary, is usually impacted by attendance. We want the elementary students to try to help with not going to be a priority. And so if we stick to the prioritized scores, teaching staff and CPS, not the original, which is one of the big features, we don't have an opportunity to do it.
No.
So how do we see that going if we're not addressing what we know is one of those, one of the things that are impacting achievement the most in the elementary school? How do we think that's going to go if we don't have a
Well, so I don't ever want to try to predict the future, and I want to make sure I say that. So I think that I think we would all admit we have Smith does a wonderful job in first grade. I'm hopeful that she would agree. Maybe she would not. I don't know, and I'm being serious. I'm very rarely serious with Ms. Smith. That behaviors just behaviors have improved baseline from last year to this year overall. Okay, so that's important that we at least establish that behaviors are better. Okay. Are they where we want them or need them to be? I'll answer that question, no. I guess if you say, well, if you take that position away, and there's also some other mitigating factors. We've had a lot of maternity leaves this year to our care team. That has to be stated. You know, our school psychologist, we have several members who literally, and that matters, and it factors in. These are not people we can just replace. I think I'll just find a school psychologist and plug them in. That's not how that goes in some positions. You know, for some things, we've had many teachers who have gone on maternity leave. Congratulations. But we've had a lot of just dysregulation in our own ranks because people are kind of coming and going when things aren't consistent. All right. I will say to you that I'm encouraged by that, by the behaviors have been better. I don't want to say that without this thing, I don't want to be that person that says, if we don't have this position, this place will just go to, because that doesn't do merit to the people who work very hard every day there, and they work very hard. I don't know, it's always better to have more hands than fewer hands. If I was to be honest, and the TES were fully staffed with those 6 elementary teachers, and you asked me, well, okay, Dr. Cassavine, you can have one other person for Christmas. Who would you pick? I will tell you, quite frankly, I would pick the high school Spanish teacher. Why? Because their numbers are huge. The behaviors don't look the same. When kids are dysregulated at the younger level, they can be scary. They can be scary. We have to sometimes evacuate classrooms. So when we start talking about learning, when one person is dysregulated, that might affect 25, depending on the situation. So 1 can affect 25. At the high school level, I'm trying to get them into college, or I'm trying to get them into work, or I'm trying to get them somewhere but out, right? So, yeah. And so I mean that affectionately. They know that, I hope. We've got a situation in which we've got some really great programs that may start to falter up at the high school because of the sheer numbers of those kids. We all talk about the 4th grade being the largest class in the district, and they are by far. It's 121, I think, and 118 of them are residents. So they are Templeton and Phillipston born, and here they are. Our next largest class is the 7th grade, soon to be 8th grade. Well, that's going to complicate some things going up to the high school when you swap out a class of 60 or so graduating for a class of 123. My point is, it's purely numbers game. By the way, the freshman class, 101 kids. That's after Monty Tech has taken what it's going to take. Your sophomore class is at 101 or 102. It kind of fluctuates. You now have classes of 100 coming through the high school. Not 60, not 70. But I don't want to shirk your question about behavior. They should be regulated, and often do regulate better by the time you get to high school.
The problem is that
Yeah.
we know by 3rd grade where they are in terms of that assessment. The assessment is very hard to read from that. And so
ones who
Where do you
fall,
put the fires out first?
you put them at the elementary. Absolutely.
But I guess my argument is, none of these feel right, other than the budget we certified to me.
Right.
But it's very difficult because someone is going to, as a result of those alternatives.
Sure, please do.
So, one thing to keep in mind with the structure we have in place currently with the 6 elementary teachers, is that this year we restructured the contract and after
Mhm.
what that allows for, it allows for the administrators to be present at all of those meetings and to be at the role of professional leaders, which they're not able to do if those meetings are happening at the time that they're all happening at school. They cannot be at all of those meetings, they're on the same day. And so from a, you asked about how we ensure our especially professional leaders, because we are, they're watching us. One of the things we're doing is with that administrative position, because that is not an administrative position, it's currently a mediator. So with that position, that person is taking some of the role with the teachers who free up principal, if they do spend more time in the classroom as professional leaders. It's not just for evaluation purposes, but if you look at program implementation, it is feedback purposes as well. And so that's one of the things to consider with that position. And then additionally, at the high school level, that additional language department.
Foreign language?
Foreign language teachers, one of the programmatic things that position will allow us to do is right now, we have foreign language instruction happening in our middle school, and we have foreign language instruction happening for grades 9 to 12 in high school or at it's really gaps in high school. So we don't directly offer foreign language. If we were able to do that, it would provide not only consistency for students, but it would also help us as courts to be able to have students somewhat to feel languages
There's there's no right answer. I think that this is the triage that we often do. I think that, and I don't want to say things that make promises that I cannot keep. I don't know who will be here next year and who will not, meaning that we often do, and Maria is my witness, we often get retirements after April. I think the weather warms up and someone says, yeah, I think I'm done. And I, which is kind of late, but in other words, for them in terms of retirement, but they're like, no, I'm good. April's good. So we don't know. What will that give us some opportunity? It might. It's been that way every year, or many of the years that I have been here. That people either, we hope not for any of them to move on, anyone to move on, but we do usually have a couple of, I'll call them surprise retirements that allow us to do maybe different things. I think that will be something that we will look for those opportunities. We discuss that every summer for those who've been here through traditional summers, not kind of the summers we've been through because of COVID. But I think that gives us an opportunity to do that. We're always looking for ways to do that. We honestly think that we'll get more money this year from Chapter 70. We do. Why? Because we generally do. There hasn't been a year or traditional year that the Senate doesn't come to the rescue and give, X amount more, whatever. And it's menial maybe to some, but to us it might mean a position, which can happen. There's the circuit breaker kind of discussion that's happening right now about how much money will they allow us to reimburse, for circuit breaker, for those extraordinary costs of special education. That looms large, and that should not be forgotten. And so that might offer some opportunity. I'm trying to think of the other kind of things that we were.
At the Lawrence had its legislative roundtable on Monday, and there's discussion about I'll call it the pothole fund.
Yes,
14%
okay.
increase in special ed. Many of the legislators spoke to that, and it is, it's interesting listening to them speak because it's a well-known fact that they really live on record to say it, that if the House gets it first and they give a number, fully expecting the Senate to throw more money at it, so that they can come and meet in the middle somewhere. So, I think to your point, yes, I think there may be more money, hopefully, headed our way. We don't have an idea of what it could be, but there's also an amendment, that Senator Tarr, I believe, has put out there to readjust the minimum local contribution. For whatever reason, it's 59 local, 41 state. He's looking to change that, I think, to 54 local and 46 state, which would give some big relief to our municipalities. So that is, so there's a whole bunch of initiatives. Will it go anywhere? We don't know. I know I heard that the rural school aid, they're looking to throw some more money. They're also talking about regionalization, not so much under the same terms where those grants were offered, but under a different guise. They're redefining what they look like. So I think there's a lot of potential out there, and which over the summer then, hopefully by July 1st, we have a fully certified and governor-approved budget, and then we'll know exactly how much money we may have in our pockets from some of these increases to the Chapter 70 or other items. So, yeah, very good point. That, we knock on wood, have something.
So just to kind of just round up that we have 655. There's only 28 school choice students out of the 655 kids. And quite frank, but to be honest, 6 of those are tuitioned in pre-K, which are not school choice. They're tuitioned in, as we know. And I misspoke about the 4th grade. The 4th grade, I got to tell you, I'm gonna have to look at some life event. But we have 127 total 4th graders, and 120 of them are residents. That is a giant class for us, right? For us. And when you look down, you're looking at hundreds all the way. There are 100 kids, and there are no school choice kids. And so I think I know I bring this up, but I wanted to show you, and so these are real numbers, quite frankly, and we're at almost 1,500 kids. We keep growing. So anyway, yeah.
Which is all good.
It's great. By the way, none of this is bad news. I mean, it sounds like bad news, like, oh God, we have all these kids who want to stay here and come here. Well, that's awful. No, this is a really, really good news, and it's a credit to the teachers of this district. Honest to God. No one stays. No one's going to keep their child here if it's safe or it's not good for them. Just not going to do it. We have the lowest number of kids we've ever had school choice out of this district in the 7 years that we've been keeping track here. We filled that sheet 3 times more than we could ever take in terms of school choice. We're getting calls now. That list is gigantic already. It's sad to look at because these people write me these unbelievable notes, letters trying to get their kids into our elementary level, say these wonderful things, and tell me these stories, which is really hard, believe it or not, really hard to read. I'm hopeful that someone's not lying, but I don't think that they would. But we don't even look at the elementary. We can't even look at them because we don't, especially with 4 teachers. So it's a great problem. It really is, and it's a credit to everybody out there teaching kids. It really is, and so I think I've made it sound dire, right, or it made it sound bad or horrible. It's not. They are their best, advertisement every day. They do a great job, and I mean that.
So with that being said, we have some decisions to make. If someone wants to make a motion to adopt a different number that we can consider, I would entertain that. Otherwise, we will move on. We need to take some sort of action or inaction as it may be.
We don't want to be in a position to go into 1/12 budget. Given the economic times and where we are right now, I think we should go with the 6 elementary teacher budget number.
So I have a motion on the floor from Hank that would allow us to recertify our budget at $23,373,968. And that would include having 6 elementary teachers using $600,000. So I have a motion. Do I have a second? Questions, comments? I think we've heard a lot of those, I'm gonna say concerns, I think we've heard all of them, but is there anything else anyone would like to add? Okay, so seeing none, I'm gonna do a roll call vote, just to make sure we get it down. I'll start with you, Mr. Mason. Aye. Dawn? Aye. Danielle? Aye. Heather? Aye. Jen? Aye. Jeff?
No.
And I'm going to say aye. So that does give us a 6-vote majority to pass a newly certified budget of $23,373,968. So we have to now do some additional motions to approve income and some other, and the allocations to the towns. So I have been provided a bunch of cheat sheets, so I will look for the right one, and this is it. So with that being said, let's see, would entertain a motion to vote our estimated income of $12,340,849 for the FY '24 budget, which is based on the Chapter 78 from the Governor's House 1 budget submission. Do I have a motion for that? Heather, do I have a second? And a second from Hank. Hank? Shauna? Danielle? Heather? Yes. Jeff?
We now have a new certified budget, do we not?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay. I would entertain a motion that the Narragansett School District School Committee vote the estimated income of $605,230 for the FY '24 budget, which is based on Chapter 71 aid from the Governor's House 1 budget submission. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Motion by Hank, second by Heather. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Hank? Sean? Danielle? Jen? Jeff? And I'll say yes. I would entertain a motion that the Narragansett Regional School District School Committee vote the estimated income of $31,646 for the FY '24 budget, which is based on the charter school reimbursement from the FY '24 cherry sheet. Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Hank. Do I have a second? Second by Heather. Any questions or comments? Hank? Jen? Jeff? I would entertain a motion that the Narragansett Regional School District School Committee vote the estimated income of $600,000 for the FY '24 budget, which is based on the FY '23 certified excess of nutrition. I have a motion. Motion by Hank. Do I have a second? Heather? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Hank? Danielle? Jen? Jeff? I would entertain a motion that the Narragansett Regional School District School Committee vote the estimated income of $245,000 for the FY '24 budget, which is based on the FY '24 Medicaid receipts. Do I have a motion? And do I have a second? Any second? Another questions or comments? Seeing none, Hank? Jeff? That's it. Almost there. I would entertain a motion that the Narragansett Regional School District School Committee vote the assessment amount to Templeton in the amount of $7,692,433. Do I have a motion? Motion by Hank. Do I have a second? And a second from Heather. Questions or comments? Seeing none, Hank? Shauna? Danielle? Heather? Jen? Jeff? And I say yes. And the last one, I would entertain a motion that the Narragansett Regional School District School Committee vote the assessment amount to Lieutenant Phillipson in the amount of $1,858,810. Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Hank. Do I have a second? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Hank? Shauna? Danielle? Heather? Jen? Yes. Jeff? And I say yes. So those were all unanimous, with the exception of our first vote, which Jeff said no to, so it's for the record. So So we now have a recertified budget of $23,373,968, which will give us 6 elementary teachers, but it will also use $600,000 for E&D, not the $500,000 that was initially proposed with our original certified budget. So next steps will be for our treasurer to do a recap and send those out to the towns so that they will have that information so it can be included on the warrant. Any questions or comments that we haven't addressed so far on that?
I have one final comment. So, to those parents and residents in the district who are not happy with the change that we made today, we're not happy either, first of all. But we do have to be good partners, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we put out a budget that we think will pass. We did have about 10 folks show up or send in comments for the budget hearing. We deeply appreciate that, and we know that those 10 folks in particular are going to be really disappointed in what just happened. That said, 10 folks is not enough to pass a higher budget on the floor at a town meeting, and the reality is that lots of folks don't understand town meeting or don't come to town meeting. And so what I do want to say is that if folks want to see something different, we do need to hear from you, and we need to hear from more of you on a consistent basis, and we need you to come to town meeting. We need you to vote, regardless of whether it's a higher budget or a lower budget. I mean, I know that we always are, the comment at every town meeting is, we wish more people would show up. Unless, of course, there's a noise ordinance for an ATV, then you get the entire town coming. And we're looking at you, Phillipson. But you know, I do want to comment that because it is disappointing to pass a budget that we know isn't going to meet the needs of our current students. But the risk of going into 1/12, the risk of putting a burden on our towns that is too much for them to bear is a responsibility that we can't knowingly walk into. Though I do think that we need to figure out what that partnership looks like going forward, because I know the towns don't want us to be understaffed for our kids either. I know that. I do know that. And so we'll figure out that path forward. But, you know, to our towns members, if you want something different, come. We're here. We want to hear from you. Come to those town meetings. Vote. It's really important. Not everything is on the ballot in these towns. Those town meetings, a lot happens there.
Can I just add to what Jen said? And I absolutely agree with everything that Jen said. And I just want everybody to know that your vote at these meetings is very important. However, your voice is important as well. We are a regional district, so Phillipson, voters from Phillipson should be attending the Templeton town meetings. People from Templeton should be attending the Phillipson town meeting. We need your voice at these meetings. If you disagree with what's going on, or if you're not happy with what's going on, we need your voice.
Just to clarify, so you can attend,
vote,
but
yes.
you can't vote, and you'd also need permission to speak on the board. So,
Understood.
but I think it's important.
Absolutely.
I think at the end of the day, the issue becomes if the towns, you know, all the boards, the select boards and the financial advisory committee don't hear from the residents what is important. They don't have the information they need to craft a budget to support that. If people would come out and speak to whatever the issue is, whatever is important, then at least the people who have influence over crafting the numbers can put forth a budget that speaks to that. And it's great that you come, you know, speak to us as a school committee, and we try to let our voices be heard, and through us, you know, the community voices we hear from. But the towns also need to hear that, to let the priorities be set by the townspeople who they represent. When no one comes out, it's, how do you set a priority when you have no idea what people want because they don't talk to you? So, very good points. You must come out. I think, Dr. Cazanet, you say it so eloquently, democracy works for those who show up. So, you want to make a change and you have an opinion, come show up and speak. Every resident has the right to speak on town floor. So if you're not happy with the budget we just passed, come speak. You may not change the outcome, but speak about it so people start to hear and understand the priorities and the concerns of the citizens. If you think it's too much, too little, that doesn't include the right to come out and talk to the budget and speak to it. And all of the items on the warrant. I mean, this isn't just about school. It's about all of the services the town provides. So I think it's really important that that message get out there. So thank you for bringing that up and getting that into it. Anything else? Okay, so we have a newly certified budget, and that'll get sent out. Next up on our agenda, we have the business manager's report, but I don't believe there's anything to report in this. All the reports will be at our next meeting as usual. We're going to talk about the DSIP action steps for 2023-24. And I believe Dr. Karen, we're going to turn this over to Molly to...
I think initially, and we'll just kind of tag team, sure. I'm going to put it up on the screen, just so you know.
So start with what DSIP stands for, maybe.
The DSIP is our acronym for our district strategic improvement plan. It's really, it's a document, but it's really what guides what our work is for a period of time. And so our DSIP was released last year, and our objectives, our initiatives, and our outcomes are long-term, and those will remain. What we're modifying annually are the action steps or our roadmap to meet those initiatives and objectives. And so what we have this evening, and I'm not going to go through every single step, you have that, but I'm just going to kind of generally talk about the progress we've made in each of those objectives and some of the new action steps that we will see for us to either continue or expand the work for next year. Our first big bucket in our strategic plan, our first big objective is around the multi-experience support. We see a lot of them now. And there are initiatives under that for both social emotional learning as well as our academic. We've done a lot of work this year in really unpacking data at a variety of different levels. What that work has looked like this year is sort of unpacking one data set at a time. So we unpacked our BIMAC data, our attendance data, our MCAS data, our STAR data, where we wanted to go about. And so what you'll see for new action steps looking at next year include looking at and ideally adopting the data analytics platform, which you've heard me talk about. This allows us to look at creating a system that will allow us to look at multiple data points for a school or a grade or a class or a student. So it really gives us a platform to really analyze the data more efficiently and effectively. You'll
I'm just gonna just kind of reset. This is a 3-year strategic plan. And when it was approved with the understanding that every year these action steps would be updated, just to make sure that that's out there so that we could have a timely and relevant action plan in place instead of trying to figure 3 years from now, what's new. So I want to put that out there. So are there any questions about any of the updates here? I know we try to put this on the agenda for every 3 to 4 months so we can keep it relevant and in front of us to hear some updates. So we can see more of this as time goes on. But are there any questions anyone has right now on this?
And I should add that we've been at this with our administrative team and have the ability to provide input and feedback. And then once this is established, they will work with their school-based team to reestablish their action sets in their school improvement plans and their STIPs, which are sort of waterfall programs. So that'll be the next step for our school to present to them their action items for next year.
Dr. Kessler, did you want to add anything? Fair enough. Next up, we have curriculum and instruction update, which is our wellness plan that Molly's been leading that team. So let's hear what's been going on.
Oh, perfect. Could you just zoom in on the image? Yes, perfect. So we are just about finishing up our second year as part of the Massachusetts School Wellness Coaching Program, which is a program that's offered through DESE as their Office of Food and Nutrition Program. And so, as I know, Kate reported a lot last year. The committee that was formed for our Wellness Advisory Committee last year was in what's called Tier 1. And so what that means is the committee had a chance to work with an assigned wellness coach as part of this program who helps the committee go through the process to reflect on the current wellness policy and whether or not it met state and federal guidelines. And the outcome of that year was an assessment and then a revision to the local wellness policy. So that was done last year. This year, that committee was reformed. We've been meeting periodically. And this year, we have focused on really taking a look at that new policy and saying, okay, where are we currently in relation to the initiative of the policy? Are we meeting these yet, or are we not yet there? We're partially moving. So we went through a process earlier in the year to assess and prioritize what our needs are in relation to the current policy. And then we created an action plan to really say these are the priorities we're going to focus on this year. And that same tool will help us reprioritize in the next few years as well. And so this year we took a lot of time to do that, and then we just started with some of our action steps. One of our action steps this year out of the plan is to increase student voice and participation in our school lunch program. And so we are excited to report out, or I'm excited to report out on behalf of our committee, that we have successfully started that. And one of the things that it's looking like is implementing some taste test events in our secondary schools. We're looking at our middle school and high school because we're focusing on creating a structure that we can then recreate to continue to hear student voice in the lunch program. So we did our first taste test. We had 423 students who participated in our secondary schools, and 77% of them positively provided feedback that the fruit that they introduced they want to see on the menu. So their voice has created what will be a change in offerings for fruit for next year's school lunch program. We also got their input on what additional food items or other meal items they would like to see for future taste tests to potentially be part of the school menus. They're pretty excited. We had some pretty excited students, really great feedback, and some really interesting food choice options that they would like here in the school.
excited because I think with the passing of the universal free lunch, we now have the funding, hopefully. One question I do have, and I know that we had issues with supply chain. Are those working themselves out? Are we still having issues with trying to get anything other than, 50 billion pounds of pasta and a can of ragu or whatever it was that was available?
I haven't heard anything. So I was asking that it comes in regularly, maybe some items that just aren't available, but if there's some solutions that are happening.
Because that was concerning, you can't, a child cannot survive on chicken nuggets every day. Now the child, I think they can, but.
That was a
Some
very
would challenge
popular
it.
option. And I would like to add, we have a student representative on this committee who is incredibly passionate, and is really excited about the project.
Great. Any questions, comments? Great, thank you. Thank you for the update. So, next up, we do have a surplus item that we do need to vote on. There is, so the elementary school has a different brand of this glucometer. Glucometer, right? So we are going to surplus a freestyle Freedom Light glucometer so that we can standardize what we use across the district and be able to buy supplies and whatnot, and everyone's familiar with the same product. So I would entertain a motion to surplus the Freestyle Freedom Light, thank you for the picture, of the Freestyle Freedom Light glucometer. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Jen. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second, I'll go this way to Jeff. Any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That was unanimous, so we can put that through the surfacing process. Next up, we have a wonderful document about the superintendent evaluation cycle plan, so I'm going to pick it up. Awesome. So this document is going to outline to the committee what the process steps will be for the superintendent evaluation. Tonight, we're going to propose new actions for the DSIP for FY24, and guess what? We've done that, so check, we've got one done. At the next meeting, Dr. Kazan's going to propose a new set of goals that'll be aligned with those district strategic improvement plan action steps that are new for the DSIP that's currently in place. And then an evaluation will be a 2-year evaluation cycle, which will start July 1st in 2023 and June 30th in 2025. This document here, I'm not going to read everything on it. I do want to thank Dr. Kazavant and I believe Molly, you were integral in maybe putting in Susan and everyone else that helped put this together. Please read through it because it will be a blueprint for the requirements of the school committee. We must do an evaluation of the superintendent. There's all sorts of regulations around how it needs to be done, but it needs to be completed for this prior year. So it'll be coming up with the evaluation for the previous set of goals that we have. And then we'll have to, in open session, we have the ability to provide that information, feedback and our ratings to Dr. Kazavant. And then we start that new cycle in July 1st. So read through and familiarize yourself with these. It's always a fun process. And what I will say is that I think for anyone who hasn't been through this before, years ago, and I'm looking at Hank and probably Jeff, you remember, when you did a superintendent evaluation, you got a binder, literally this thick of information, and then you're trying to go through. It is wonderful that it is all linked in a document now. So here's the evidence for this goal, you click here and you can see that it is such an easier process. So the overhead for committee members is reduced, 1,000-fold. So it isn't as overwhelming as it once was, or it should be. So please read through this evaluation schedule and just kind of familiarize yourself with what the process is. There's a lot of information out on Weston's website about evaluating the superintendent, so you can go and read their documentation if you want. There's also the ability when, just because there are so many people on the committee, we can ask MASC to come out and do a little workshop on superintendent evaluation. People might feel that that would be helpful. So those are some things that we can do to help everyone just kind of get with the program on how to evaluation. Again, thank you for putting this great schedule together. Any questions or comments? So there is, if you go to the DESI website, there's actually forms that they, and here's the thing about the forms.
Not familiar with the form.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the same.
You don't-
It's the same. Yeah.
And you don't have to use them, which is the other thing, is that if the committee chooses to adopt a different form and the superintendent agrees to that form, you don't have to use it, but.
I'm thinking about an interpretive dance maybe, or whatever,
Yeah.
just
So,
whatever's good.
So, yes, you're going to be very familiar with these, yeah. Which makes it nice because, it only makes sense that it is a waterfall, that the superintendent evaluation should be similar to the assistant superintendent, to the business manager, to the principal, to the teachers, like it all falls together. So it does make sense. That is probably one of the better changes I've seen when they redid the superintendent evaluation probably 6 or 7 years ago. I think it was yeah. Anyway, thank you again for putting that together. End of year events. So I know there'll be a schedule coming out.
There is. It was going to be done for today. What happened is, and I think Ann could speak a little bit to this, but we are waiting for confirmation, or we were earlier today, waiting for confirmation for the fire departments to confirm a date that they'll come out to speak for the prom event. Once we had those dates, then we would be able to then, distribute the list of all the things that are going to be happening from, May to June, or April to June. So we're just waiting on those, and that'll be ready for next meeting. It'll be done before then, but I'll be able to present it officially to everyone by the next meeting.
And just for everyone who knew, the school committee is invited to many of the events. Susan will take care of us and
Yep.
push out like, hey, you guys come to this meeting, and make sure that we have a whole position. So thank you for getting that together, and look forward to all of the upcoming events. Should be fun, I'm sure, guys. So prom's got to be coming up May 13th. And is that up in New Hampshire then? At the Colonial? Oh, nice. Good. That's much closer. Good, excellent. Okay, so now we're at the superintendent report, so.
I have a lot.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna do one quick update, because I did see DESI did just publish that they're looking by June 1st. We spoke about this at the last meeting for our school choice.
Yep.
So that will be on our agenda for the end of April, so that we can vote on that. I just want to put
Excellent.
that out there so you don't have to go over that. So,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to start off with some great stuff. So in education, we do a lot of things, and we make a lot of plans and goals, and many of them never come to fruition for a bunch of reasons. Some of them legitimate, some of them not. But I have to say that when we started out with just really trying to figure out what we could do with Project Lead the Way, but just STEM, how could we increase our availability and our offerings in STEM? We knew that STEM was going to be, in terms of, for those who are interested, by the way, I'm just talking about one section, folks, okay? Because not everyone is interested in STEM jobs, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But we've put a lot of effort into this. We've put a lot of weight behind it. And, you never know until you know. Well, Monday, which is a terrible day. Mondays are terrible. But this last Monday was, I have to tell you, was the most amazing Monday, honestly, by sheer happenstance. I don't think I can make it any bigger. I'm going to try. But the four ladies that you see up here were recognized by the Project Lead the Way group Their submission, their project garnered them third place by industry experts. So literally they created this idea, they created a presentation, they had to support it. This was not just like a book report by any stretch. And they presented their ideas, and people in the field looked at this and said, this is really good. Matter of fact, we're going to give you third place out of probably hundreds of submissions. And I am going to mention that everybody I'm going to talk about is a woman, which is key because they are very unrepresented in the STEM field. So I want to make sure I just, a little shout out. So these 4 young ladies were very shy and I told them that they better get used to being, receiving awards and being celebrated because it was just a great presentation. And so they're going to get a paid internship if they so choose. This is a big deal, right? Someone's going to give them money to do something that they like, and I've got to tell you, there they are, and we were all just so proud. Then in the afternoon around lunchtime, we find out, because only MassQ texts, they don't do anything else but just text things out, don't you know, or put it on Instagram. We find out that Danielle Langdon was selected as the Teacher of the Month for April. Yeah, and I sent this out, but she did this great lesson, and you could click on, I'm not going to click on the link, but literally it comes to me in a text note. No one tells me anything. I get this text, I go, she works here. I'm like, oh my God, right? Does everyone know that she's ours? And I'm like, oh, I didn't get my text. So she's recognized as the teacher from MassQ for the month of April. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is unbelievable. Then, I knew about this, but Monday night, we go down to Holy Cross, and they are celebrating AP teachers, which is quite an accomplishment on its own. I've been there twice now. Mandy Fliss, 2 years ago, recognized as an ELA AP teacher, but this time, Nicole Hemlin received the Laurie A. Bertram Award, which is recognized just to one person, for excellence in AP education and just supporting all efforts. By the way, the woman who gave this award, we're very good friends with Laurie. She takes this award very personally and very seriously. So when she gives these awards out, it means something, and she went on quite a bit about what this award meant. And our very own Nicole Hemlin won that award. And this was all Monday. So I'm thinking, this is going to be a great week. Because if Monday's going to start off like this, I'll take it. So that happened, and we've been working towards this for a long time, increasing our AP footprint. We just heard from Zia, who went down to the State House and actually lobbied. She's a lobbyist now. She has to now literally register. She's a lobbyist, but for new legislation around AP tests, MassQ we've been involved with quite a bit, but we are now recognized, and of course Project Lead the Way. I just wanted to start off with that because that truly is a big deal for Narragansett. The districts that were being recognized are 5 times our size, at least. And, when I've been there twice in 5 years, it just speaks to the quality of people that we have here, honestly, and the commitment. So I just want to make sure that I start off, with something that's positive, because it obviously is important. Okay, so what I want to get to really now, I'm sorry, let's go see. All right. I'm not sure how well people can see that, but good. So at the very beginning of the year, made an impassioned speech about where our focus needs to be, that we, again, just due to COVID and a lot of different things, we're a bit behind and lax in a few things. This district has never been lax or behind in the area of ALICE or trainings or shooter events or anything to that effect. So we really put our shoulder behind this and have worked very hard to do a lot of different things. I'm going to talk about that first. It's a little bit out of sync, but I'm going to do that. So we engaged a company by the name of Navigate 360. And what they do is they provide a library of videos and trainings around the ALICE procedure, okay? So, and there's a test, and you test into it, and you have to get a certain score, but it gives a lot of information. That's on top of, so every educator, at least every staff member who was here in August, went through our staff training. We have 3 members of our staff who are certified ALICE trainers, along with our SRO, currently Steve Fliss, and we went through an hour training, which is which is one of our mandated trainings, and we went through that. We then rolled out Navigate 360 about a month and a half later, because it took a while to get everything kind of up and moving. And we offered January and February, it's either February and March, I forget which 2 months. Oh, okay, November. Okay, thank you. So November, January, and February, we dedicated time to, at least go through this, for this process. And then also, schools did individually either have conversations about this. So we have really been hyper-focused on getting back into the swing of ALICE. Now, again, I just want to stick with ALICE just for a second, okay? Because that's important. Because we haven't talked about that in a long time. Because we did initially, like we do normally, but we haven't talked about it in a while. So as we were trying to figure out what we were going to do for the next couple of professional development days, Molly and I were sitting down thinking, okay, how do we want to do, because we hadn't had a drill as of yet, which was by design, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. We had, the unfortunateness of the Tennessee school shooting had taken place. So, I wrote my letter, as unfortunately it's been, and again in my letter, it's unfortunate that there are now just template letters that our associations send to us to put out in these situations. To think about that right now is just the saddest thing that I can possibly think of. That there are people who design letters to help us, by the way, to communicate out to public about these situations. And many of us who've been in the business for a bit have written anywhere between 4 and 5 of these letters. And they're just maddening and really awful to write, as I wrote in my letter. What I promised is that I was going to give an update about where we are at, what we've done, what we're doing, and what we're gonna do over the next X amount of months. And so that's what I'm gonna do a little bit here today. We've talked a lot about the physical updates, and I don't wanna just, keep talking about, the COPS grant. It was wonderful, it is wonderful, it's done a lot of things. Our camera systems are complete. We are now completely, our camera systems have been upgraded, done, right? So that's fantastic. And we are, of course, utilizing those as we normally would, The new alarm system in general, which kind of goes hand in hand with that, that's up and running. We can see where alarms are when they happen. Boop, on my phone I see a person going around the camera. It's usually someone who didn't let us know that they were coming in. There's no intruders or anything like that, somebody breaking in, but this thing's very, very high tech, and we've had some funny moments, I'll just put it that way. Our door systems have been upgraded again with this system, and how they are alarmed and unalarmed, etc. That's completed. Website and the auto call, the app, it's up and running. We invite people making mistakes. You're only going to get better by doing this. We've made some interesting errors on the website, and before we're just not used to this type of a platform, and it's like having a Porsche when you've ridden a bike. So we're getting our feet wet, but we have been able to push out information far more easier and far more effectively and efficiently. Let me give you an example. Let's say we have handbooks. Every year we update the handbook. We got to take the handbook down. We got to make the changes. We save it. We upload. Oh wait, so and so didn't get the latest update. So it's just ridiculous. It was maddening. All these documents that we have, such as this, reside in our system, up into this system. When we make a change in the system, it updates it all. Like, I know that sounds like, yeah, so what, Chris? That's a big deal when you have to update 30, 40 very important documents just for the new school years. And we were always constantly going, oh my God, it says 2019, that's a bad look. We're getting used to this and we're getting better at it. It's going to make things a lot easier and a lot more efficient. And I think parents have really responded well to not only to the website, but the app. The app is huge. There it is. You push the app. We made a mistake about lunch the other day. Oh my God. We put out a lunch menu for a half day. You might as well have just honestly taken me out back and just, honestly, it was awful. We said there was going to be orange chicken. No orange chicken on Friday because it's a half day. My fault, folks, okay? So we were able to change that from the app. There we go. So it was awful in the central office for me. Okay. So that's what we've done, and we've done that. What's in progress are the Zoom phones. We haven't talked a lot about this because we don't have them yet. But the Zoom phones will be able to be with teachers at all times, staff, and it's a way that they can communicate with parents or anyone they'd like without giving out their normal cell phone number, but also it allows in a emergency situation to have communication, and we can, when on, track and find you if we need to, right? So it does a lot of things. It's something that you would probably want to shut off during the weekend. I get it. But when you come back to work, etc., but you now can call parents and not go, please don't ever call me again. Please don't just or lose my number, if I'm to be honest, right? But we haven't talked a lot about that because we don't have them yet, and we're working towards that. The visitor management system, we're going to have that up and running by May. What that does is if you were to, we're going to first do it at the high school, kind of work through the kinks. You come in, you give me your driver's license. We run it through. It does it basically a Corey check right on the spot. You get a little sticker with your face on it. Basically, it's the face that's on your ID. Sorry, and we'll be able to identify who you are. And if you're not somebody we want in the school, you won't come in the school based on a prior record or something to that effect. It's very effective. A lot of schools have them. Now we will, but we'll again. It's a compatibility issue. We're working through that. In progress also is the superintendent video school safety videos, or the superintendent coffees. I guess that's what we landed on. I got trauma echoes from 2020 about school safety. But we coffee and cupcakes. I can't literally say those two words without laughing now. But we're going to do this a lot differently, and as our survey talked about how they wanted to communicate with the superintendent. A lot of it was basically at night and in person. We're gonna do that, but what we're also going to do is when it's applicable and when it matters or when it makes sense, we're gonna do a video to put out first, and then I will meet with whomever, right, about maybe the topic at hand. We're going to start off with school safety first because that was the number one identified topic in the survey, and we're gonna do something a little bit different, but that is in progress, and our new website and how we are able to push things out will help us do that. In progress, active shooter drill. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Community information sessions. That's still in progress. I don't know why I duplicated that. I just did. Maybe I just like coffee, school safety a lot. I'm not sure. I don't know. But mental health and training, the BIMAS, Alice, and Navigate 360. School safety is physical, right? There's a physical piece to school safety. There is a training piece to school safety, Alice, etc. What I don't think people really understand a lot or understand the importance of is the BIMAS piece, right? We talk a lot about BIMAS. What is it? It's a screener, emotional health screener, and it gives us, people opt into it, but it gives us a lot of information about where people are at, and the kids who are filling these out and the parents are telling us, right? They're giving us informed information. They're telling us about themselves. That's important. And we do a lot of work in the social emotional realm here in this district. That is another thing that we work very hard to get to, and the more we can work within that system, the better we are going to be able to understand our kiddos and respond as needed to when things aren't going well with them. Alice, we are committed to Alice. Lots of things have changed in Alice since I started in the business, and again, which is always evolving. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And the Navigate 360 we just talked about. So Molly and I were sitting there and going, okay, we have basically 2 professional development days left. I really wanted to, I wanted to do, maybe think about to do 2 active shooter drills. That's when we were talking about this, we were kicking it around about it. And we decided that we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is in April, which is next week, okay? We're going to, for staff only, and I'll talk about why I say that. We are going to work through some scenarios. People are at different stages of their understanding and development of this. I don't want to ballpark it, but it's been around 12 or probably even more than 15 new people since have come on since October. So we have a bunch of people in this district whom haven't even had the initial training that all staff had, say, in August. So there's this really big, and we've switched over our entire, for example, our cafeteria staff. They've changed over like 3 times, more so. So we've got a lot of new people. So it made sense to take the time to go over scenarios, work on some things. We have a checklist that we're going to be pushing out to our staff, and we're going to say, okay, let's talk about these things, check your areas, do this, do that, do this, do this. Right? The goal is that in May, we're going to do a drill. How that drill is going to look, we're talking about. Because a lot of research has come out about what an active shooter drill did look like, what it should look like, and Alice especially has added the social emotional component in this because this is some deep stuff. It's hard to talk about. It's very emotionally based. We are teachers. We're not necessarily trained to be, to do these type of things like in the grand scheme of things, but we are. And so I want to make sure that our staff are ready. So the most important part is that our staff are ready and feel as comfortable as they can or prepared as they can be to really be able to then move to what I think is the next level is talking to kids about this, right? Because depending on the age of students, it'll change our narrative. It'll change the way we talk about things. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about that. But it's important that my staff is ready to do that. I want to take the time to do that right. Do I think that we're prepared right today? Yes, I do. I think that, we've talked about this a lot. We have a lot of senior people in this district who've been through. You have to tell me how many overall. I've only been here 6 years. People have been here longer than that, obviously, and have been through a lot of different drills, etc. We are working hand in hand with our safety folks, and that is all of them. Yes, Sergeant Fliss happens to be on the Templeton PD, but the fact of the matter is that when we do these type of drills, we involve Phillipston, fire, police, emergency. We involve meaning in the conversation. We talk about these things. We always involve them. So it's a team. It's a team process. The Navigate 360, we have well over 80, just over 80% complete, meaning 80% of our staff have taken this. And the expectation is that they would, of course, but they did, and so that's the commitment that these people have, to keeping obviously themselves, their staff, but specifically their kiddos safe, and so we take it very seriously. So what I want to say is that we have done a lot this year in terms of the physical safety, right? We have always been, well, for the last several years, or 3 or 4 years, we've done a lot with the emotional safety of things through BIMAS and our telehealth program and our counseling program and increasing the number of school psychologists and school adjustment counselors, etc. We have some more to go, and a lot of it is just really just how it should go. Slow and steady is the way to go right now, because there's a lot right? There's a lot going on, but I need to make sure my staff are in good space to make sure that we take whatever the next steps are. We are driven by the literature, the research. Ashley Niggle, we don't talk enough about her, but she, of course, and Matt Holloway, who head up all of the social emotional pieces of things, have a huge part in this, because they really take the social emotional piece to it and make sure that we are keeping our staff members and, of course, our kiddos, their well-being in mind in terms of the information and how it's going, how it's presented. So when I say, can you be proud of something you don't want to do? I guess, yeah. I'm very proud of the way we've attacked this, this area. We said that we set out to do it, and we've done a lot of work in a short amount of time. We have more work to do, but they're very, very committed to doing it. All the people who are making this happen, and so I want to make sure I give a shout out. And my teachers are just, this is a hard conversation, but they are, they're pros, and we're going to have some sad, difficult conversations next week. But we're going to do it because it's important, and so we're going to do it. And so in terms of an update, in terms of the school safety update, just in general, we're there, right? We're going to, the hard part now comes, but we're going to do this, and I'll report out when it, of course, as more things get done, right? So the Zoom phones and the videos and stuff like that as we go. Do you want me to just stop real quick and ask if there's any questions about those at this point?
Just to ask it, out loud and not keep it in my head. I'm sure that this is incredibly difficult for teachers, staff, and administration to do in terms of training, and we're going to make sure that there are resources available to them to help them should they need help processing the things that they're learning, which is highly necessary, but also, hard, very hard. So, yes. Okay.
Actually, matter of fact, we dedicate, I don't even know what portion of our admin meeting just on that.
Okay.
The nuts and bolts of it, I don't want to, I certainly don't want to underscore this. The nuts and bolts of it are, they're there, right? They're by video, and a lot of us have been through these. Let me just say, that's the easy part, okay? Seeing if the door can lock is easy. Looking at an egress, looking at, that is easy. The hard part is having the conversations, and that's what we spent most of our time talking about today, and really having an opportunity to have a safe space for us administrators to go, how do we feel about this here? How does Cassavant feel about this, which might be different than, say, what Molly might feel, and working through that. And Steve Fliss and company have been very accommodating, honestly, because they've got a different role. The police have a completely different role, but they are vital to what we need to do. But they've been very understanding, and we're going to have a conversation again tomorrow with Templeton B. Steve Fliss and company, because he's the SRO, about what we're going to do, and we'll message that out. And again, I don't want to leave the parents out of this, but the students. But we need to make sure that we need to make sure that we're right before we really start involving or really communicating tremendously out to our parents and kiddo base. That is our main focus about this, or our tact. Okay. Yeah, skip enrollment. We've already, that's next time. Gosh, I don't know. Is there anything else that I need to? I thought there was one. Oh my gosh, it's awful. There's so much stuff this month. It's that time of the year, folks, as everyone knows. And we'll, yay us. But okay, I just thought I would. The other piece of it is that we're in the spring sports season. We're trying to get our fields up and ready, up and running. That can be a report out for another time, but they are in action as we speak today. Our softball and baseball teams, I believe, are both playing today. Graduation, I guess, is happening. I don't know. I guess that's coming up too, but I'll update as we go.
Thank you for that school safety update. I know that you really focused on that this year.
Yeah.
So it's nice to hear the update, the progress we've made, and to demonstrate the fact that we're keeping, the people at the forefront of all of the initiatives, which is thank you. There are no items that have come up in the way. School committee comments. Would anybody like to share any comments? Well, I'm never at a loss for words. That's why you're laughing at that.
I got an email.
I just want to say, please extend congratulations from the school committee to all of our folks who were recognized on Monday. I mean, what a way to start a Monday. It never ceases to amaze me that we take what little we have and we turn it into some really great and outstanding programs. We have kids in this district who do things that there are no opportunities in this area like there are in other areas. They create their own opportunities, and it's very exciting, to now start seeing that recognized with all of these programs in place. So it's really something that, everyone should be very proud of, starting, with the administration straight down to the teachers to the students. Because if the students didn't reach out and grab for those opportunities, nobody would have been a team to get third place. So really, it's so exciting to see, I think of when I graduated a long time ago, my kids who only graduated, one last year and another few, how many things have changed since then? And the fact that the momentum that the district has had since before COVID has continued through COVID, and we didn't miss it. I mean, it's amazing. So I think a big congratulations and thank you to everyone who has really maintained a focus. And, the fact that monies are always tight, but we figure out how to do grants and implement programs at little to no cost and continue them. So just a real big kudos to everyone involved. And, what a great thing to see on a Monday. If
Best
everybody
Monday ever.
could start that way, it would probably make them feel a little happier, to start on
Absolutely.
Monday on the work day. So thank you. Okay, next up we have subcommittee reports. Academic subcommittee.
We'll meet next week.
We meet next week. I'm saying if there's anything additional to report out on anyway. Administrative, I think we meet next week as well. Finance and budget, we met actually shortly after we certified our first budget. So really no additional updates. That's good. Facilities, not sure if facilities is met. Haven't had a need to. Okay. I'm going to skip over to, I'll get back to policies in a second. We have a long-term planning. I know there was a meeting last week. I don't remember the week.
We talked more about the horizon.
So guess what? That's coming up soon, right? Okay. And then policy, we met last week. So NASC has done a review of a gazillion policies and put a bunch out for review. A lot of them are only language driven, so they're really trying to update language. For some reason, school system was used. It should be school district, and they get the pronouns right and make some updates. So we are trying to focus on what some of those updates are. So there are 7 policies that are being presented for first reading. I'll read off what they are and what the changes encompass. They're out here, so hopefully they'll have a chance to review. The first one is AA, school district legal status. This was to adopt language specific to regional school districts as recommended by NASC with their updates from March 2023. In rereading the policy, there was pretty specific things to regionals, of which we are, that were not put in this. So it was a good update that just makes the language and some of the references more appropriate to a regional school district. ACA, which is the non-discrimination on the basis of sex. There's updated language and legal references for NASC. Again, really no big changes. They just, I believe this is one that expanded the definition of potential classes, which was parrots with the laws anyway. AD School District Mission. This update was to include updated mission statement of the district. So when the district did its strategic plan, I forget if it was probably not this iteration, maybe the last one, we had approved a change to the mission statement. Apparently the mission statement, it resides in this policy AD, so we didn't pick up on that at the time, so now we have uploaded that policy to reflect updated mission statement that the district has, and same words appear on the DSIP, now on the ABC, tobacco-free schools, just some updated language. They had a couple comments that were there, not really any big change. EA, school committee operational goals, same thing, some updated language. There was no real content change. BB, school committee legal status. There was an update to reflect language for regional school district and district-specific information. So this one, again, because we're a regional, it wasn't really tailored to that, so they offered some wording and we updated to be specific to our district. And then BDAA, school committee member authority, again, just updated language. There was no content change here. It was just updated language. So those are attached to the agenda so that everybody can read them. I would entertain a motion to approve the updates to the policies that I just listed as first readings as presented. Do I have a motion? Second? A second. Any questions or comments on any of these policies? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So these policies will be brought forth at the next meeting for the second reading, and if approved, then will be implemented after that. Just to be prepared to see a lot of these policies with this language change, not content change, they're coming down the pipe, which is good, because that means we're actually reviewing them again, which is what we should do. There's no correspondence to address. Next meeting is the 26th of April, not the third Wednesday, because that is the vacation. So we will meet on the 26th of April at 5:30 right here. And next we have executive session. So we do need executive session tonight. I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session as per MGL Chapter 38, Section 21A, Provision number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation with the UFCW, and with the NBA. An open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair states declares, which I do. The meeting will not return into open session immediately following. I would entertain that motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from Jen. Will be roll call. Hank? Paul? Yes. Heather? Jen?
Yes.
Jeff? And I said yes. So we will officially enter executive session, and I will close the open portion of this meeting. So thank you and good night.